to the Morale Booster Network, a platform for entrepreneurs, career professionals, leaders, and the general public to give back to the society through coaching and mentoring. I remain your host, Dr. John Ugulu. I am an author, speaker, and strategist. I always say experience is the best teacher. You can stream or download this podcast from YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Google Podcast, Player FM, and Pandora. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to the Morale Booster Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Ugulu. In this season of From Idea to Impact, we will dive deep into the creative process, the challenges, and the triumphs that come with bringing a book to life. And in this episode, we are thrilled to welcome our guest. He is an author, he is a chef, a TV personnel, no other person but Terrell Manning. He's a best-selling author, and he has been forging a way for new chefs. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I want you all to join me as I welcome no other person but Chef Terrell Manning. Welcome to my show, Terrell.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate you for having me on. I love the platform, love the podcast. So it's an honor to be on here.
Thank you so much. And for those of you who are listening to us right now, we want you to do what we always encourage you to do. Like and share this broadcast. Like and share this broadcast. And here's the reason why we typically encourage you to share it. It's because you might just be saving the life of that one person who has been waiting for a lifetime to hear this message. Our platform is a platform that brings hope to the hopeless, a platform that inspires people. That's why we go out of our way to make sure we bring people who have a story that can change lives. So like and share it. Thank you so much. I am doing the same thing right now. And we're currently on multiple platforms. We're global. And by the grace of God, this platform is impacting lives on a daily basis. Welcome once again, Chef Terrell. How are you?
I'm great, man. I like I said, I appreciate you for having me on. Really love what you're doing in this space. Make sure I can share it over to my audience too. Because I feel
Yes.
like a lot of people need to hear, this podcast and everything that you're doing in this space. And I think it's absolutely amazing. It's totally inspiring.
Awesome.
So
Thank
again,
you.
thanks for having me on, man.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us, and not just to join us, to come and share your story to people you don't even know. It speaks volume. It means a lot to us, right? And
Absolutely.
for those of you, yeah, and for thank you so much. And for those of you who are listening, if you or anyone you know would like to support what we do, our mission, please feel free to visit our website, www.johnugulu.com. It's www.johnugulu.com. Go right there and make a donation. Nothing is too small. Whatever you bring to us would help us continue uplifting, would help us continue the job, the work of inspiring people, of bringing inspiration to people. So, Chef Terrell, now let's go over to the business for today. Now, you are
Let's
a
do it.
chef. Yes, you are a chef. It's not common to see a lot of men who are chefs. So, could you please share with
Um,
us? yes, what led you to that calling, to that passion, and when did you
Uh,
discover that?
so I distinctively remember it, man. It was
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. I don't remember what year, but I was 7 years old. Um, and all of the guys were in the kitchen cooking, like they were preparing
Mm,
the Thanksgiving dinner, and all of
yes.
the ladies were out in like the living or family room, which seemed a little bit odd to me. It seemed a little bit different.
Mm,
And their conversations were all boring to me. They were talking about who had the prettiest dress and who had the most red hats out of the group and all that stuff that I, as a 7-year-old boy, just not interested in, right? Um,
mm, mm, yeah.
so you know, my thinking was I want to be in the kitchen with the fellas, right? I'd rather be in there, and at the time they were in there cooking, and
Mm.
the one thing that I remember is that my grandmother taught all of them how to cook. So it was my uncles,
Oh,
my
okay.
father, my cousins, and my grandmother taught them how to cook. So that was the one
Mm,
common denominator.
right.
And the thing that worked out in my favor is that my grandmother lived with my parents, myself, and my sister. So we
Mm,
all lived together. And so, sometimes you got to go straight to the source. So I went to my grandmother and I asked her if she would teach me how to cook as she had did my other, male family members as well.
mm.
And she proceeded to wake me up at 6 a.m. the next morning, banging on my door. And the first thing we made was scrambled eggs. That was the first thing that we made. And so um I learned at that moment that my grandmother was very militant. My grandmother was very disciplined. I knew she would instill a lot of that into myself.
Mm,
And you know I admittedly so do not like waking up at 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning. There are some people that do, and that's great. I'm just not one of those guys. Like I'll
I
do it,
get it.
right? I'll do it, but I don't like doing it. There's some guys they just wake up, they're ready to go at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That's not me, man. Um, that was one of my earliest memories that I
Mm,
have of waking up that early and actually being happy to wake up. And so for about 2 weeks straight, my grandmother woke me up at about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and we got up and we made
mm.
breakfast every day. And so that's where my
Wow.
basic knowledge and basic skills started. Um,
Right.
was waking up those early mornings, and dude, I was excited to wake up in the morning. I was excited
Mm,
to get up
mm.
and cook, and so that's how I knew that you know I had a passion for cooking. This was something that
Right.
I definitely wanted to do. And just kind of getting caught up, going on from 7 years old and getting older to 10, 11, 12, and started getting interested in girls and all the other stuff, right?
Mm,
um I still enjoyed cooking. I still love cooking, and I never took it seriously because I always looked at myself as a kid who enjoys cooking, more or less
right.
a home cook. And so I didn't think that I had the skills or ability to be able to keep up with, restaurant chefs.
Mm,
Um, and so I remember being about 17 years old. I was working at a restaurant and just trying to work as hard as I possibly could. I've always loved working. Working has just
mm.
been a part of me. Um, and so I was working like three jobs, right? Two of them was in a restaurant. I was, bussing tables and serving tables in the morning time, and then parking cars for the same
Mm.
hotel that I was working in. So I had three jobs in one building, and I
Okay.
was doing valet. And I remember I was like, man, for a 17-year-old kid, I'm making decent money because I'm working three jobs. But I'm like,
Right.
dude, I am not happy doing this. Not to mention, I was also waking up at 4 a.m. to get to the job at 5 a.m. So I
Mm.
wasn't happy about that, and I wasn't
No, no,
cooking
no,
either.
no, no. Nobody will be happy about that, you know.
So, so I remember I went to the chef of this hotel that I was working at, and I said, man, will you just give me a chance to, be essentially a bottom feeder, or a
Mm.
prep cook, right? Like, let me just, dice up some potatoes and red onions.
Mm.
And he, in a not so nice but still nice way, told me no. And
Wow.
he said that, I didn't have any kitchen experience and I'd never done this before. Um, and I told him, I cook at home all the time. And so he said, well, everybody cooks at home. Doesn't mean that you're a good cook. So he didn't even give me a chance, didn't give me any opportunity, no leeway. Luckily, I knew somebody at
Mm.
the top, you know, competition, basically.
Mm. Mm.
The next hotel over, who was competing with the hotel that I was working at, they were looking for banquet cooks, and they had an opportunity for me to come in there. And so the chef who was working, his name was Chef Andrew, still a
Mm.
good friend of mine to this day. Um, he gave me an opportunity to do what we call a stage, and a stage is basically just like a tryout. You either get a
Okay.
1 day tryout or you get a 2 day tryout. So I
Mm.
was on a 2 day tryout, and the second day was determined on how good I did the first day. So
Wow.
basically, you got really one opportunity to make a good impression. And so I
Mm.
did not do good the first day, but I showed up and I
Oh.
had a notepad, a small little notepad, and a pen just like this in my breast pocket, and I was taking notes
Mm.
down of everything. Like, in terms of professional cooking, I started to realize that there is a difference between cooking professionally and cooking at home. And I had to learn very, very quick. So whatever I thought I knew as a home cook, I had to let all of that stuff go out the window.
You
And
have
I'm
to
like,
throw it out.
yeah, I'm becoming a totally different person.
Mm.
And I mean, the I was thinking I had worked, corporate America jobs before. Um, but I was thinking, like, you know, I'm thinking about all this level of professionalism that we're gonna have and blah blah blah. Like, it's not at all like what you see on TV, right? With the beautiful, classical music playing in the background and all of that stuff.
Right.
Man, we talked about some crazy stuff in the kitchen. And it was just a completely different, lifestyle for me, but it
Mm.
was a beautiful lifestyle. I found the beauty in everything. Anytime that I messed up a recipe or I messed up a dish, I found the beauty in it.
Mm.
I realized, I'm like, okay, this is a part of a journey that I'm embarking on.
Right.
To this day, I've never had a feeling like that. Like, being in that time and place, working in that kitchen with all of those amazing chefs and people who genuinely cared about my success. I've never experienced that since then. And it was like a feeling of where I knew that I belonged in that spot.
Mm.
You know, it was a feeling of divine timing, divine intervention, divine everything. And
Mm.
I happened to just fall right into it. And I was open to it. I was willing to learn. I got cursed out every day for a few months. I got sick. I got sick one day, and I couldn't make it into work.
Mm.
And so I called the chef and told him I couldn't make it into work. And man, I was nervous. I was scared. Like, typically for most people, they're like, yeah, that's a normal thing. Like, everybody gets sick. You can just call into work and say you won't be there. Dude, I was scared I was gonna, like, lose my job, or like I was afraid of the opportunities that I was gonna miss out on. Like, there was
Right.
so much opportunity to learn on a day-to-day basis that I was afraid of what I was gonna miss out on.
Mm.
Um, and so, because I didn't want to miss out on those opportunities, I was, man, I hated to miss work. Um, because I was learning so much. I was getting information thrown at me that was invaluable.
Right.
Not realizing at the time, I'm going to tie this in here in a second. I didn't realize at the time that all of that would be a part of a story that I could
Yes.
ultimately turn into a book,
Yes.
and start selling the book online and in person, become an Amazon bestseller, and build a level of credibility for myself because people realize how resilient I am
Mm.
in terms of my work and how dedicated I am to my passion. I didn't realize all of that was in the pipeline, but I felt something. I didn't know what I was feeling, but I felt something, and the something that I felt was good, and I wanted to keep on feeling it.
Right, 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 right. That's a powerful story, and stories are very important, and that's why when we bring guests on our show, we try to engage them to understand their stories, because whatever you have been through, whatever journey, whatever life journey you have been through, there is definitely somebody somewhere who is just about to embark on that same journey. So when they hear your story, it can help them transition from where they are to where they want to be. So that's why we do it, and we appreciate your story. It's a very interesting story, and right now you do it passionate. So do you own a restaurant, or do you work for a restaurant, or what type of catering do you do right now?
So I own a catering business. I did own a restaurant at one point, um, and I told myself like I would never own a restaurant again. I'm slightly changing my mind a little bit on that. I've become more open to the idea of owning a restaurant and you know, doing some very crazy, eclectic things in the restaurant space. So I'm
Mm,
excited about what's to come. But my catering business, has been my baby. I've owned my catering business since 2016, and I've made some
okay,
powerful connections. Just
okay.
by being an entrepreneur and by learning how to as one of my old coworkers used to say, kiss hands and shake babies.
Exactly.
uh,
And what you do is something. It's a business that everybody needs. So you will definitely have the
everybody's got to eat.
opportunity. Yeah, everybody's got to eat. Everybody at some point would have a party, would host a party. So and it's a door opener. So
Absolutely.
and that takes me to a question that I have. I know there are so many people right now, some of my some people in my audience who would be interested in starting their own restaurant business. And you have
Mhm.
been cooking since you were, very, very young. So what was your major reason for thinking owning a restaurant would not be a good idea for you? What led to that? So that those who are listening can also
So
learn. Those who want to start can learn from.
that's a multifaceted question. Uh, at first,
Mm,
when I was still pretty early on in my career, and
mm.
still very much so in a heavy learning phase. I'm always in a learning phase. I'll never stop learning
Yeah,
about this industry. I'll
we are
never stop
lifelong
learning about
learners.
myself. Um,
The day you
but when I
stop
was still in
learning,
a
the day you die.
exactly.
Yes,
But
sir.
when I was still in a heavy learning stage, right? Still learning about food, still learning about the early parts of the business. Um, there is this
Mm,
guy who was a restaurant manager of this restaurant that I worked
mm.
at, and
Yeah.
he had formerly owned a restaurant, and he
Okay.
gave me all of the negative stories. He said, I used to own a restaurant. He said, I lived at the restaurant. I was there, you know, I don't know, 120 hours a week or something crazy like that. Um, he said, my wife, anytime I wanted to see my daughter, my wife had to bring my daughter to the restaurant because I didn't have enough time to come home.
Wow. Wow.
And he said, I absolutely hated myself. I got a divorce. I considered suicide. I went bankrupt.
Oh.
He told me all of these, negative things that happened to him when he owned a restaurant. And
Mm.
so in my mind, I'm like, shit, I don't want that. you know, like I actually
Right.
want to see my daughter.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
so at that time, it put a negative undertone on what restaurant ownership looked like.
Right.
Um, and I this is how this is how powerful certain influences can be. Um, from that time period on, I just determined in my head, I'm like, I don't want to own a restaurant. Nope, don't want to go through the stress.
Mm.
Don't want to become
Mm.
suicidal. I want to see my kid. I don't want to own a restaurant.
Right.
Um, and then I fast forward to the time of actually owning a restaurant, and I was like, man, like I can still see my daughter. like I can still have a work life balance. I can still do things outside of the restaurant while still making the restaurant successful.
Right.
Um, and so that's where I had to go back to school. So every phase of my career, I've had to go to school, right? Proverbial school to learn it. So the first part of school was just learning how to cook. The
Mm.
second part of school was learning how to work in a restaurant or work in a kitchen. The
Mm.
third part of school was learning how to lead a team. The fourth part was, starting the restaurant, owning a
Mm.
restaurant. So at this part of, me, this time of me going to school, I was learning how to own a restaurant.
Mm.
And so um it was tough, it was hard, and especially when you have business partners, man, that's the hardest part is having business partners. If you got enough
Yes.
capital to do it by yourself, damn it, do it by yourself. Because then you only have yourself to argue with, right?
Right.
And if I argue with myself, I win every argument.
Mm.
um you know Dealing with other business owners who didn't quite have the same
The
vision as
same,
I
the
did,
same
and
vision. Yeah.
the same vision as I did, and
Hmm.
when money is involved, conversations can get confusing sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll say
Yes.
that nicely. So conversations, started getting confusing, and then I exited the ownership side of the business,
Mm.
and from that point, primarily focused on my catering business.
Oh, okay.
Um,
That's awesome. That's a good experience too, because right now, unknowingly to you, you just gave some powerful gems there. You
yeah.
advised people, or you encouraged people to start their own restaurant business with their own money by themselves if they have the capital,
If you have
rather
the
than,
capital.
yes, if they have the capital. And you also warned people about the possibility of living your entire life right inside the restaurant, which is some good information for everybody to everybody out there, or those people who are thinking of starting their own restaurant businesses. So thank you so much for sharing that. And with that being said, now let's go into your other side of being an author.
Yeah.
Um it's not easy to find people who are in the catering business who were able to find the time to write a book. So that makes what you do very special. So I'll say congratulations to you on that.
well,
So how
well,
how did how did that come into your mind? How did you think about
oh, it wasn't me. It was COVID-19.
that?
uh,
Oh,
it was COVID.
yes.
I was bored, and I needed something to do, so I said, "Why not write a book?" And it's believe it or not, it sounded crazy to me because you know, just the not knowing, and you know maybe even having a little bit of a lack in self-confidence. um
Mm.
but I was just like, what in the hell would I be able to talk about, right? Like why would people find my story interesting?
Mm.
And so I just started doing other stuff during COVID, and eventually like we all did. We got bored. We got bored at some point during COVID, being stuck in the house and on quarantine. And so at some point, I was just like, "What the hell?" And I
Yeah.
started typing. And so just me reminiscing on things that happened in my career. And the more I typed, the more I started to remember. The more I
Mm,
started to remember, the more I started to laugh. The more I started to
mm,
cry. The more I
mm,
started to have these unexplainable stints of nostalgia.
mm,
I've never felt more nostalgic than when I wrote my book and I was in the writing process. And
mm,
it was as if I was in that room again. It was as if I was in that kitchen again, getting cursed out by the chef every day. It was as if I was in that living room listening to the ladies talk, during Thanksgiving Day and seeing all the guys there. I was able to quite literally go back in time and put myself in those spaces and really relive those moments.
mm.
And that's when I realized how powerful it is to write a book. And I was just able to pour a piece of my heart into that book. I don't think I told every single detail about it.
Mm.
Like in that book, about my story in that book. But I think I definitely told a lot. And I said all that because everybody has a story that is different. Everybody has a crazy story. You know, Doc, I'm sure your story
Yes.
is much crazier than mine, right? But I
Yeah.
would find that so much interest. You might read my book and be like, okay, this is boring, whatever. But I could read your story and be like,
Yeah.
damn, this is exciting, you know?
Right,
And
right, right, right.
and so in
So,
writing the
so
book,
mm.
in,
Yeah,
in
go ahead.
writing the book, I started to realize, man, this book can really help somebody,
Hmm.
who is in my current position or who was in my position a couple of years ago. This book can help somebody. And, I wrote it, and, a little bit down the road, I found out I was a bestseller.
Wow, wow.
And
That
I
that
just,
I
it
I
was so
can.
crazy. I just happened, like, one day I would just happen to just, like, check my book sales. And it's not something I typically do.
Mm,
And it just so happened that the week that I check it, and like I said, I don't typically check it, but the week that I checked it, it had just logged into the bestsellers list.
wow.
And I'll never forget, I was with my buddy Jordan. And
Mm.
Jordan's a lot bigger than I am. Jordan just grabs me up and, like, bear hugs me.
Yes, I know that feeling. Um, i- typically the first book is always challenging to write, and yes, I completely understand that story because I published my first book during the COVID as well. And yes, that's how it all started. Just like yours, it starts with
COVID Arthur.
the decision. It starts with a decision to say, "Hey, I need to help somebody." A decision to help somebody out there, not just yourself.
Yeah.
And you accepted that calling, you acted on it, and today you have a book. So congratulations to you. Congratulations for being an Amazon bestseller. Now, what's the book all about generally? Is it your life story? Does it talk about helping people get into the catering business, or is just a motivational life story?
Um, yes. I would say it's a little bit of all of the things that you mentioned. The
Mhm.
book starts off by taking you into my bedroom at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm sleeping,
Mhm.
and hearing that knocking on the door from my grandmother, and
Yeah.
it goes into my mom not wanting me to cook because she felt like I was too young. She felt like 7 years old. I shouldn't be on the stove. I shouldn't be flipping eggs.
Right.
He's too young to learn how to cook. And so overcoming my mom not wanting me to cook, and then ultimately her getting excited about me cooking and her loving my cooking, and then my mom teaching me, her recipes and how and her style of cooking.
mm,
And then kind of leading into the third chapter where I interacted with a chef who specialized in sushi, and he was an absolute master at his craft.
mm,
And uh for whatever reason, he decided to um take me up under his wing and really teach me a lot. And what a lot of the chefs didn't realize at that time in my life, I was at a very critical point in my life because I had recently lost my father.
mm.
And so some of the chefs during that time period, whether they realize it or not, they kind of wound up being father figures to me because,
Right,
these were guys that I had to learn from. And I was
right.
so passionate about what I was doing. And um, not always as humble as I needed to be, but I was extremely passionate about what I was doing and what I wanted to learn, that when they saw that I had so much passion to learn and that I was willing to humble myself to learn what they had to teach, then they were willing to kind of take me under their wing and teach me a lot.
Right, 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 right. That's well, first of all, may your dad's soul continue to rest in peace.
Thank you, I
Uh,
appreciate that.
I know what it feels like, not to have a father. I lost my dad when I was in high school, and I was supposed to be part of the statistics of,
Yeah,
they say when a son or when sons are raised by their mothers, there's a high possibility of them, going astray. But I thank God she was a strong woman. So I completely understand
thank God.
what it feels like not to have a father. So may his soul rest in peace. Uh,
Likewise to your father as well, and you're able to understand some of the things and the struggles that I went through in losing a father.
right.
um it's not an easy thing. I went
It's not.
through I went through an emotional state to where I was unsure about everything.
Mm.
And I'm sure you can relate to
Man, I look,
that.
I made some life changing decisions, decisions that could have cost me my life,
Same.
decisions. I dropped out of school at some point, but luckily for me, the foundational values instilled in me by my parents, they came into play at some point, and for some reason, I just realized that, hey, buddy, you're going crazy. You need to realign with who you were born to be. Then I had to go back
Exactly.
to school to start all over. I made terrible decisions. I hung out with the wrong crowd.
Yep.
But we thank God, we thank God for
It's
life.
it it sounds familiar, buddy. It sounds
Man,
familiar,
man,
man.
man, we thank God for life. I did
Oh,
too many
absolutely.
things that
Every
only
day.
God, see, when I look back, I only just end up thanking God, and not just thanking God for saving me,
Mm,
but for helping me understand that I could be someone who could encourage others to live right. So
absolutely.
I'm glad for that, that I'm
Amen.
using what God has blessed me with to help other people. So yeah, that's gonna be for another day. It's a
Man,
long, long,
listen,
long,
listen.
long story,
I feel it, and I can
man.
honestly say, without God, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am
Yes,
right now.
yes.
I probably would be dead or
It, it,
something. It
it,
wouldn't be anywhere good, if it
that's it.
weren't for the
That's it.
mercy of
That's it.
God. and
That's it.
and I know that the it's just a song, but there's an old gospel song. I think it might have been Shirley Caesar said, "I had a praying grandmother."
Mm,
I had a praying grandmother. I had a praying mother. I had a praying sister. I had a praying family. I had prayer warriors, that
yes,
have always, prayed over me and looked after me. And man, it's just been a blessing to be able to, be, this point in life, be on this podcast talking to you and hopefully blessing some other people. It's been a
Yes.
blessing all around, man.
Yes, and we give God all the glory, and
Absolutely.
that's all we can do. Yeah, so let's move on. Someone is asking for the book name, the title of your book. What's the title of your book? So that people can go look it up.
The love languages of food.
The love language is of food. Yes,
Yes.
let me put it out there. One second. Let me um, love languages of food, right?
Yes.
Uh, all right. Love language is a food. Man, I love that
Yes,
title.
sir.
So how did you come about that title, man?
Here, I'm gonna pull up the picture so they can see it.
Okay.
Um,
So where can they get it? Is it on Amazon?
so I'm gonna show you right here. Can you guys see that? Let me turn it on. So this is on the Barnes and Noble website, and if you click on there,
Mm,
it'll show up. There it is.
okay.
So the love languages of food. So if you go on barnesandnoble.com right now, you'll see it. I'm actually running a sale on it.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and get it while it's on sale. Get your ebook copy, get your printed version, and then if you contact me directly, I can get you a signed copy.
Awesome. That's great. Hey, those of you who are listening to us right now, the title of his book is Love Language is a Food. Love language is a food. So go get a copy. It's available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes and Noble. It's, you can also reach out to him directly. In fact, right now, while we're listening, go and follow Terrell, Chef Terrell Manning on Facebook. Chef Terrell Manning, Terrell.
Got it.
Terrell Manning. M like Mama, A America, double N as in Nancy, I as in ink, N as in Nancy, G as in girl. Go follow him right now on Facebook. Yes, you can always reach out to him for those of you who might be interested in starting a restaurant business or getting into the catering business. I believe he would be a great resource to you. Is that correct, Terrell?
Absolutely. And I'll add, one last point to what we were speaking about in terms of the restaurant ownership.
Mm,
Um, Before I owned a restaurant, because I had just, spent a lot of time in restaurants and, in management positions and stuff, I
right.
actually became a restaurant consultant.
Mm,
Um, and I started, consulting different restaurant owners and teaching them how they could be, more productive, how they can make more money, how they could get the most out of their employees, how they could encourage their employees, and
right.
more importantly, how we could get systems in place.
Mm.
McDonald's, probably has the crappiest hamburger, but they have the best system.
Systems. Right.
They have the best systems put in place, which is why, financially they're very, very successful.
Right.
Um, and so you don't necessarily have to make McDonald's money to have a McDonald's system. And
Mm,
so I became very good at putting restaurant systems into place and helping other restaurants put those systems into place so that they could be fiscally responsible, they could be financially stable, and
mm.
that they could have a glowing image within their community.
Right. So you see, if you're listening to us right now, he's a one-stop shop to get your restaurant business. Yes, to get your restaurant business off the ground. Here's a one-stop shop. If you have a restaurant and you're struggling to put all the necessary systems in place. Now, I put up a post this morning on my Facebook page, and it reads like this. It says, the goal is not to, the goal is to become better and not to become bigger.
Mm,
Most people focus on just getting big. starting a
Yeah.
business without even having systems in place, without having teams. Before you know anything, they are thinking of selling franchises. They are thinking of helping people start a franchise of that business that has no system. So the goal it should be to get better and not to become bigger. Because when you get better, when you have all those systems in place, automatically growth will come. Is that
Mm.
correct, Terrell?
Oh, no, absolutely. The better you are at your craft, the
Mm,
more people appreciate you, and the
exactly.
more that people appreciate you, the more people they will bring into your network for them to appreciate you. Um,
Exactly.
you got to start off with a good product, man. And obviously, I know there's a lot of, people or we'll stick with the restaurant space,
Yes.
restaurants that doesn't necessarily have the good food. But I promise you, if they have a huge following, they started off with good food.
Hmm.
Um, might not have necessarily followed suit, but they started off with some pretty damn good food when they first started. I can almost guarantee you. But for starting off, you have to have good food. It starts with that. Man, I know this company, this food company, they started off with probably well over $20 million of investor capital,
Mm.
and within a year and a half, they were shut down
I was going to ask like 20. Who starts a restaurant with 20 million?
because they
Except you've been in the business for a very long time and you just want to expand. You
well, well, the other thing is they weren't doing the restaurant concept, right? They were doing something that should have been, I think relatively easier to scale. They were
know.
doing, food delivery or meal prep.
Oh,
Um, and so not even the same amount of overhead, but somehow wasted the money and,
mm,
wind up having to shut the doors because they couldn't compete with the smaller companies who had much better food,
right.
who was in tune with the community,
Hmm.
and who actually cared about the product that they, was putting out.
Right.
Um, so that's the other thing. Like I embrace being a small business owner because I'm still able to connect with people.
Mm,
I'm still able to connect with my clientele. I'm still able to connect with my village.
mm,
And I think when you're growing and when you're ascending into this big business, you can lose touch of that in a
right.
lot of ways.
Mm,
And of course, we all want to grow, multi-billion dollar company.
yes.
Um, However, you still got to start somewhere. And where do you start with your business? You start small. So you got to start as a small business, and then you let it grow organically. The organizations that I've been able to build, they have been, substantial like that. But I've been able to build organizations, and I noticed that when they grew, it wasn't necessarily because of me directly putting impact into customers. It was me putting impact into, pouring into my employees and then them pouring into the customers.
Right.
But they had to see me do it first. If they saw me do it, then that taught them how to do it. It taught them how to interact with customers. It taught them how to interact with different people in the community. And so, as a small business owner, um, your business is only going to grow as far as you take it, and your employees are only going to do what they see you do. If they
I,
see you out there, busting your butt and talking to everybody and being friendly and standing up for them, they're going to do the same thing for you.
I completely agree with you on that. And thank you for sharing those beautiful tips. And for those people who are listening from all over the world, right now, this is your chance to go get a copy of his book, Love Language is a Food. Love language is a food. And I agree with that. It is a food. Get a copy, learn from him. He has some experience out there. Learn from him and feel free to always reach out to him via Facebook if you've got any questions, comments, or concerns. So Terrell, thank you so much for joining us on this program. Yes, somebody said, yeah, there is a comment here. It says, I really enjoyed the book. Very inspirational. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Jen Dobson. Is it Dobson? Yeah, Dobson. Dr. Jen Dobson. Thank you so
I
much
can't
for
see the
sharing.
comment, but I know the name.
Oh, okay, great, 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 great. So thank you. So,
That's
ladies
my.
and yeah, go ahead.
I want to say one thing about Dr. Jen. Dr. Jen, my girlfriend, we've been dating for a while now. Such
Okay.
an amazing person, and like she has truly added value to
Mm.
my life. She also is an author as well, and she's kind of inspired me to start writing my book again. So I'm writing another book. I'm working on my second book. Um, but man, I gotta just I'll wrap up on
Awesome.
this. Man, the inspiration and the love of having a black woman by your side is unlike anything else. Unlike anything else. So I just want to give a shout out to
I
my
agree
baby
with
for
you on that.
that.
Oh, I'm sure she heard that. Yes, congratulations. Shout out to you, Dr. Jen. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for encouraging him. And I am happy because you just told me that she's also an author. And yeah, we would be happy to interview her in this season. One of our episodes if she has a time.
Yeah,
So yes,
definitely should.
you will receive an email from us asking for referrals. Oh yes, she just
Absolutely.
dropped the link right here. That's awesome. I love the support.
I love it. That's my
Yes, so
baby.
ladies and gentlemen, yeah, please like and share this broadcast. They say everything that has a beginning would always have an end. Chef Terrell has been so helpful, so impactful. And I know there's so many of you out there who are thinking of writing books, who are thinking of starting their own restaurants or catering businesses. This is a great resource for you. He's a one-stop shop. He would be able to work with you in the area of consulting to guide you. But remember, it's not free. Yes, it's not free. So if
Not
you
free.
want to know, yeah, yeah. So that you would have to discuss that with him whenever you reach out to him. So thank you so much, Terrell, for joining us. Please, ladies and gentlemen, go and get a copy of his book titled "Love Language is a Food." It's available on Barnes and Nobles. It's available on Amazon. And yeah, feel free to also share reviews on what you think about the book when you get a copy. And remember,
Please
what we
do.
do is a non-profit activity. What we do is strictly non-profit. So feel free if you also want to donate, make a donation to what we do to support us, to help us bring or continuously bring inspiration to the world. Go to our website, johnugulu.com, JOHNUGHULU.com, JOHNUGHULU.com. Terrell, as part of what we typically do before I let you go, I want you to please talk to that um, restaurant owner or that person in the catering business who is currently struggling with their business, probably about to face, bankruptcy or business not doing well. I want you to, from your experience, just give them some words of encouragement that can
Mm.
help them hold on or that can help them believe that it's only a phase in life and that a solution will be out. Can you?
I would say for every valley that you were in, there is a peak that is just ahead, and the peak is just as high as deep as the valley was.
Hmm. That's some powerful word of that's some great words of wisdom right there. And thank you for sharing. Thank you
Thank you. I
for being
appreciate
a
you for
great
having me
person.
on, man.
Thank you for being a great person. And once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this episode of the Morale Booster podcast. And for you who's listening to me right now, I don't know where you're listening to me from. I don't even know what you know about yourself. Neither do I know what the people around you know about you. But one thing that I know for sure about you who's listening to me, I don't know who that person is. One thing that I know for sure about you is that you have greatness in you. And always remember that every day above ground is a blessed day. And today is the first day of the rest of your life.
Talk
Thank
about
you
it.
for
Talk about
joining us.
it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us and stay blessed. Thank you so much, Chef Terrell. It's been a pleasure and a privilege having you.
Absolutely.
And I hope you would have your girlfriend come share some inspirational messages here too about her story.
Yeah, for sure. I'll reach out to her and let her know that you want to come on. I'll see her tonight at
No,
dinner, so
no,
I'll let her
no
know then.
problem. No problem. Thanks, everybody. Stay blessed and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for
All
now.
right.